Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you all at there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind, head out to Shelf or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Gaarawarr, and this is Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. And in this show, I talk about a topic for an hour and then ish, if it takes that long, or it might take longer. And then in the second half of the show, I do Q&As. You propose the Q's in chat, and I do the A's live. Helping me with all of this is Gabe. Gabe is in the mod pod today. Everybody say hello to Gabe. Everybody say hello to Gabe. Today we are tackling a single champion. We don't do this often. We've done in the past. We did Azshara. Back when Azshara was the queen bee of DPS in the game. Then we did Zorbu. Zorbu was up there as well. We've talked about Artemis. We've even done click debuff. For those of you who don't know what that is, there's a VOD for that on the YouTube. But today we are tackling another kind of top option for DPS for many people in Krond. Krond is joined on screen. I just, for some reason, I saw these two. I'm like, they're both big, strong guys that wield two-handed hammers. Like, these are the Bash brothers of Idle Champions. And they announced there's going to be a season, Legends of Mithril Hall season, which is going to be season 4, and it features Wolfgar. So this is me hoping. This is me manifesting a world where Wolfgar and Krond are the Bash brothers. Yeah. That's just me. That's me and my personal headcanon. That they're like, no, I can hit it stronger. No, I can. No, I can. No, I can. No, I can. Yeah, just back and forth. Yeah. Anyway, we'll pull. Well, we can leave Wolfgar on here, but we're gonna be talking about Krond. Krond. I feel like I have to talk slower because I'm only talking about one champion, and usually I'm talking about a bunch. Last week we did Gaar's Guide to Speed Champions. I talked about like a dozen champions, and this week it's like one. I mean, I can do one in an hour, right? Right? Okay. Away we go. Krond is a male half-orc fighter. Pure DPS. Krond does one thing. He hits things as hard as he can. Now, there is a little secondary effect about that. We'll talk about that. But, yeah, that's it. Chaotic evil. Once upon a crime. Well, I mean, that works. Once upon a time. This was not Krond. Once upon a time, Krond came to the game and it was kind of just eh. He had his cantrips and he was smart. If you'll note, he has an intelligence of 16. He was smart, but yeah, he wasn't really super strong. He was what he is advertised in his new skin. If you have not seen it yet. Oh God, where is it? Here we go. Scholar Krond. He was, he was a smart boy. And then, per his lore, literally, Krond is the fourth wall-breaking champion on Idle Champions. Per his lore, he was bullied by the community and ignored so much by the players of Idle Champions that he started hitting the gym and his alignment turned to evil. Because he was just so mad at us. And he came back. Instead of being more like this, he came back, more like this. And he's like, nope, I'm gonna hit y'all with a hammer now. Yeah. That's the modern Krond. So Krond's base attack is War Magic. Well, I think this might have changed already. His base attack, he leaps out and he attacks the frontmost, so your closest target, with his bonded warhammer. He gets, at some point along his journey, we can just jump right into this, Eldritch Strike. Oh, no, wait. Cantrip, Firebolt, it's your first ability. You get the ability, it's a specialization, actually. You get the ability to add a cantrip to his attack. I'm going to go ahead and pop a specialization potion so we can talk about his different cantrips. Boom. So, let's get rid of this screen in the background. Boom. This is it. You literally start off with Krond. He's hitting things with his hammer. And then he's like, you know what? I know magic. I have an intelligence of 16. I'm good with magic. And he starts adding a cantrip onto every one of his attacks. So you have a choice between Thunderclap, Shocking Grasp, and Firebolt. Once upon a time, there was a clear and present choice, and now it feels like people are exploring their options based off their own personal preference. I'm all about that. Do what you want. Read them, figure out what you want to do what you want. I know which one I tend to use, but, and I will mention that, but you do you. Thunderclap adds the Thunderclap cantrip to Krond's base attack, causing his attacks to deal additional AoE damage to all nearby enemies. Obviously, because these are cantrips, this damage that comes from these is magical. This means Krond is a hybrid. Once you get to level 60 and choose a specialization, Krond becomes a hybrid damage champion. He does both melee and magic at that point. Melee and magic. So he then does qualify at that point, he qualifies as both a melee attacker and a magic attacker. It is rare that you would use anything that's necessarily boosting the magical part, but be aware of that. Everybody should know by now, Alcoria in slot 10 likes people who have base magic attacks, but you're not really going to... Alcoria and Krond aren't necessarily the best pairing. So once again, it's going to come down to, who do you have available and where do you want to go, right? What do you want to do with them? But just know there are a lot of, he does count for both of those if you end up in a variant where you're a more limited situation, but Krond is your DPS. You can mix and match with people who boost based off magic damage. And when you're making choices like with Regis, speaking of a companion of the hall, if you're boosting things based off Regis, who looks to either base a type of damage, you can pick either melee or magic. Yeah. So Thunderclap, AoE damage, AoE magic damage. Shocking Grasp. This one causes his attacks to deal additional damage to and stun his primary target for 3 seconds. So you get more damage and a stun for whoever he hits. This one always felt... So the first one always felt like Wave Clear Krond. The Thunderclap. Shocking Grasp always felt like Boss Killer Krond. But thus not really much Wave Clear because he's single target at that point, and that can be problematic. Just so you know. And then Firebolt comes in and goes, it causes attacks to deal additional damage to 3 random enemies. So it literally, he hits something and then casts Firebolt and 3 bursts come out and hit things. Now the thing is if you are dealing with like hit based, so segmented health enemy that either just needs 1 hit each or an armored enemy, Firebolt kind of great for chewing through those because you get not only the base attack, you get the 3 bolts that could chew through all of that armor or all of that hit based health. So yeah. Like, so it feels like AoE, single target, and then segmented health. And I'm kind of like, pick your poison. I will say the downside for me with Shocking Grasp, single target, is without a lot of wave clear, things can be problematic for your tanks as you're pushing near your wall. I'm a Firebolt guy. I'm just kind of an old school Firebolt guy. Give me 4 hits with 1 swing of his hammer. But there are big proponents of Thunderclap, and you know what? I'm cool with that too. But yeah, I'm a Firebolt guy, so I'm going to go back to Firebolt. Ultimate's real straightforward. Honestly, Krond is... I know I'm doing an entire tutorial on Krond. Krond real straightforward. Krond is not a complex champion. He just wants very specific things. But in general, not super complex. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Arcane Charge. Krond teleports to a random enemy. Krond throws down his Warhammer and leaps up into the air, teleporting to a random enemy and causing massive AoE damage by slamming down to the ground and casting Shatter when he appears. So here's what it looks like. Boom, that's it. So he just throws the hammer, jumps up to the air, comes down. He does the superhero punch into the ground and to cast Shatter, and everything around that dies. Ideally, everything around that dies. Let's get Wolfguard. Get out of here. You're not part of this tutorial. All right. Eldritch Strike. Enemies that Krond damages will take an additional amount of damage from his cantrip spells on subsequent attacks. So this is why if I am playing using Krond in a formation and I'm making one of those choices about do I want melee? Do I want to boost melee damage? Do I want to boost magic damage? I boost magic, in part because as we see over here, there's, I do have 3 firebolts. It's factoring that in. But if we're running even the same amount of damage, but then we're boosting with Eldritch Strike the cantrip damage, you kind of want to lean towards things that are based off magical damage. Again, he is hybrid. It does count for both, but feels like the most damage he's doing, the more damage he's doing is based off magical. Survival of the Fittest. So you do have to hit something once. It has to not die. Then when you hit it again, it's like, okay, now you're taking more damage. Survival of the Fittest. This is the ability. In fact, I think it's the last one we're talking about. Yeah. This is how straightforward and simple Krond is. Krond has specialization choice, a boost to the damage from that specialization, and then one other ability. Increase the damage of Krond by an amount for each champion in the formation who is either evil or has a strength score of 16 or higher. So, increases the damage of Krond for each champion in the formation who is evil or has a strength score of 16 or higher. Why is Krond a big deal? I mean, that's neat, right? You're like, oh, that's neat. So, that's telling you've got to build formations that are, very specific. But why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because survival of the fittest stacks multiplicatively. That's the good way. On top of that, there's an item for this ability. His Warhammer item. And there's feats for this ability. And both the item and the feats stack pre-bonus. So before they're pre-stacks on the multiplier. So that base number is boosted by these and then multiplies by itself however many times you've matched him up in the formation. This is the imbalanced way. Normally, most champions that, are considered, okay champions and balanced and whatever, they do their stuff post-stack. The reason being, if you take a number and you multiply it by against itself multiple times, that's great. That gets you a nice big number. And then if you multiply that number by another number at the end, no big deal. But if you take that initial number, and you multiply it by this boost, and then you take that and multiply it by its, things get out of hand, right? It's the difference between, multiplying 2 by 2 by 2 and 4 by 4 by 4, right? One of those is bigger than the other. Krond does things the imbalanced way. Krond is super strong. Now, this does mean that he needs an investment. You have to invest in Krond to get this damage. He's multiplicatively stacking right off the get-go. He really kind of breaks himself once you start dumping thousands of item levels into him. Now, I have hundreds of item levels into him. As you can see, this hammer's around 600. That's not enough. You can keep going. You keep going. There are people who have like a 10,000 item level Krond or higher at this point. Some people probably have much higher at this point. It gets a little ridiculous at those values. That's end game stuff. That's that's not what a new player or even a mid-game player can expect out of Krond. But it is good to know how Krond works. It is good to know how to build Krond, or how to build a formation for Krond. But just know that Krond, real straightforward. You'll notice he doesn't care about his positioning in a formation at all. He's not trying to manipulate anybody's numbers. He just comes out and goes, "Hi, I hit things. Help me hit things harder." That's all he wants. Yeah, but he wants you to be evil or strong. That's all he wants to hang out with. It doesn't mean that's the only type of people you can put in a formation with him. There are times where you can potentially give up one of those evil or strong people for a mega buffer. Somebody who's real strong, and it's gonna be even better. But that's a situation you kind of have to figure out on your own. We'll talk about potential options for that. I'm gonna go over Krond formations. We're gonna talk about. Oh, I forgot to bring up my list. We're going to talk about the champions in each slot that kind of, I'm just going to reference their names. And we're going to talk about like what champions even match up with this currently in the game. This list subject to change as they add more champions to the game, and 2, potentially rework champions and maybe change either their strength score or their alignment, or 3, add feats to champions that allow them to qualify for survival of the fittest. Right? There's always room for these things. Okay, so this is Krond. Oh, we should talk about feats real quick. We don't really care about this. Self-damage is all. Krond isn't here to buff other people. I don't even know why he has that. He's here to do self-damage, and he's here to buff survival of the fittest. He does have, with that new scholar pack, he does have 120 feet, so yeah, that's nice. But survival of the fittest, remember, these are pre-stack bonuses. You want this, even if it's 40%, and this is 60%. You want this. You want these. Luckily nowadays you have 4, so you can have a big hit thing. We can have both survival of the fittest. I have a wisdom feat in here for Narak because we're gonna talk about Narak, but you could swap this out with that 120 feet. Or the 30, you whatever you got, but just make sure the key is to have both the survival of the fittest feats in, because of those pre-stack multipliers. So here's what survival of the fittest looks like on the back end. So it's right now for me, I'm an EO5 buff. Again, back here it tells us upgrades and equipment applied to the pre-stack value. Wow, wild. So let's talk about slots. Slot machines. No. Bench slots. That's the kind of slots we're talking about. In slot 1, we have champions that qualify. Brunor. Yeah. Brunor likes to buff in a column. Sisaspius. Sisaspius is an evil champion. Throws out some heals and some buffs and debuffs. And Voronika. Voronika is kind of a newer champion. Black Die Society. Kind of a big deal. Voronika's got some strong multipliers. Voronika also has the ability to pick a certain person and to boost them very, very big. It is very RNG focused as to who Voronika picks. Every run she picks a different set of 3 people. Ideally, you would want it to be your DPS, but it just doesn't always work that way. However, I may have got lucky setting this up, and I got Inner Circle Krond, so hey, Voronika, join the party. I got super lucky. We haven't built out her crown yet, so Voronika has a lot of stuff. We've talked about her before, but she likes to do stuff with her Inner Circle champion, and then hunt for this crown, and so there's some work that has to be done, and we've got to defeat some more enemies and use some more ultimates to get her to her full power, and we'll work on that. In fact, let's have Krond fire off his ultimate. Well, this can stay. Slot 2. Now I am building out. I'm in Icewind Dale. I'm building out a formation that I like to use in Icewind Dale. That does not mean that this is the only Krond formation. Again, I'm reading off multiple champions you can use with Krond. And you kind of put a formation together however you need to when you're going to try to use with Krond. Everybody's going to have different kind of options. Remember, we're talking about for Krond to really blow up, Krond's going to have thousands of item levels. Well, by the time you get that far into the game, you're going to have lots of different item levels on different champions. You're going to have legendary effects, probably, Modron cores, etc. And every campaign has a different formation. So what's going to be best in those scenarios will differ. Focus on building out a formation, pushing as far as you can, and then at your wall, maybe attempting little tweaks. We're going to do a little bit. We'll change a couple things around today, just so you can see effects. But I'm just gonna throw together what I personally would run in this. There are other people in this community who are Krond mains. I highly recommend if you want somebody if you want to talk to people who have played Krond, and that's all they use pretty much. They exist. You can message them. Okay, so slot 2. Blushi is our evil Warlock Evergreen from the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Dinar, who's part of... I've got him in his new green flame skin. He's part of Acquisitions Incorporated and C-Team. He is part of the C-Team, but he was part of a bundle that went out for Kickstarter recently. Korth, our Samurai Lizard Folk. And Whittle from Heroes of the Plains. So all of these champions, Whittle obviously doing lots of attack speed stuff. So you can make Krond just, you can speed up Krond's damages. Also does some buffs and some speed effects. Korth has an marked, like an on-hit debuff situation that can, if you're attacking what he's attacking, you can get some shields and some damages. Dinar is buffs and crowd control. And Blushi is tanking and damage. And I'm going to throw Blushi in just because that's the way I want to do this. That's just the way I want to do this. All right, slot 3. Who qualifies for Survival of the Fittest? Artemis. Sure. Artemis is another, kind of end-game, super high investment DPS like Krond. But Artemis is a DPS, so you're probably not going to use them in a Krond formation. But they still qualify. They could. I mean, even if they're just giving him a buff to the number of people that are Survival of the Fittest, if that's the best you can do, go for it. Ideally, you're going to want some kind of support for Krond, though. Binwin, also DPS, who has the strength qualification. We just talked about the problems with that. Mehen is a member. Mehen is coming in the next event of the Great Modron March, year 6. Mehen is a member of the Brimstone Angels. Usually best to support his daughters. Doesn't do the best support with other people. Just so you know, Nayeli, your starter tank. I mean, you should know Nayeli. Nene just gets in the front and tanks and buffs, and yeah, real straightforward. Omendron, a leader of Acquisitions Incorporated, has some buffs based off, a placement in the formation. Could be a solid option. But right now, the Kobold, the myth, the legend, Spurt is who I'm going to run with, because Spurt just got a big glow up. And I'm not just saying that because he's a blue floating glowy spirit on the screen right now. But in season 3, Spurt just got real big. And Spurt is now another champion who, with lots of item levels, can have pretty amazing buffs. So we're just gonna, we're gonna do our thing and just go with some big buffers, because I like big buffs and I cannot lie. Slot 4. Baloth, Baratil. I'm wearing his shirt. It's a Black Pit shirt. I got it at his merch shop. Baloth is a solid evil buffer that could work here. Desmond. And also you could, but it requires some manipulative stacking stuff to really get the most out of him. Desmond, a member of the Black Dice Society, he is usually best in variants where you have escorts, but Desmond also can buff off dead people. Desmond's very Sixth Sense. He sees dead people and he likes it. And Jarlaxle, your starter DPS. Again, if you're forced to just throw somebody in that's evil to get something for Krond, you could use Jarlaxle. Sentry also has the strength requirement, is a speed champion, has some buffs, so you have options here. we're gonna go with Desmond. This is not. I'm just throwing people in this formation. I will adjust to my preferred layout in a bit, folks. So slot five. Slot five. We actually have a bunch of options here. We've got Briv. Everybody should know Briv by now. If you don't know Briv and why Briv's a good choice, now in this layout, I only need one tank, but in a double tank formation, Briv may very well be who I would choose, because Briv as a tank is OP. We also currently have Prudence. Prudence, evil. Again, you could throw her in. I don't know necessarily the best option. We have Puent. Puent's the spiky boy from that is not a companion of the hall, but adjacent. Puent is actually Royal Guard for Brunor. Yeah. And a Battle Rager. Puent slows down attack speeds, but buffs based off that slow, which is so you hit with way more damage. Interesting. Takes a very specific formation, in my opinion, to make it work. Formation layout. And Viconia. Wait, am I? Viconia. Oh, I forgot Valentine. Well, Valentine doesn't qualify, but we're going to use Valentine. Viconia, also cleric, evil, does some stuff. We're actually going to use. This is one of those cases where I'm going to use Valentine. Valentine is not currently isn't evil. Also doesn't have a lot of strength, but Valentine does things we want. I've got a bunch of positional formation abilities in this formation. I'm going to use Valentine to buff those out, and we'll get a pretty solid buff for Krond. Again, my personal choice. You do you. The reason I'm doing this is I didn't need Briv here for a second tank. Otherwise, I probably might have tried Briv. I do want to give a shout out to an upcoming champion. Again, we're doing this on a Saturday. This coming Wednesday is the Great Modron March Year 6, and Yvondra is coming to the game. Yvondra is a new tank option. She's strong, so she does meet the strength requirements. Again, if you need another tank, maybe if you don't have Briv, or Briv is disqualified from whatever you're doing and you're trying to build a Krond formation, you need multiple tanks, Yvondra is going to be an option. She just is going to straight up buff. But I think she buffs only neutral. Briv again, chaotic evil. But it's one of those situations where sometimes in this game you just need somebody who meets the qualifications and who can fill the slot. And not only does she do that, but she is strong enough to trigger his survival of the fittest. Now remember, that was an EO5 buff when we started. We're going to go look at it again in a bit, so you can see that sometimes just doing that is a pretty big deal because of the multiplicative nature. Okay, slot 6. Krond, folks. You know, did you forget why we were here? Slot 6 is Krond. Slot 7. We have Minsk and Boo. We know Boo is the real strength of this of that pairing. Minsk and Boo qualify. They are DPS, but they can be support. Very niche use though, because really their only support is against their favorite enemies. Caddy, Bree, and Egbert are also in this slot. Egbert, a tank. Again, if you need a tank, strong tanky boy. Does meet the survival of the fittest requirements. Is an option. I like Caddy Bree. For this, Caddy Bree does need a feat for this. She has a strength feat, so normally she would not qualify for survival of the fittest. If you have her athlete feat, she does. So Caddy Bree works as a solid buffer. She has an on-hit thing that you want her hitting lots of things, and that makes her buff bigger. Yada yada yada. Slot 8. Well, Dallin, no. Slot 8, we have Beetle and Grim, the tag team duo that qualify for all kinds of stuff. We've got, and our buffers and debuffers, depending on how you swap them in and out. We got Human, who you should know is speed. He also has some buffing functionality. Tatiana, another member of the Black Dice Society. If you need a big, beefy tank in the front line, Tatiana can step up. And technically also Warduke could tank and is evil. Be careful, Warduke. Warduke inverts positional formation abilities, so if you're including them in a formation like this, just understand that everything changes once they touch the formation. Maybe we'll do a Gaarawarr's Guide to Warduke at some point in the future. And I will take a couple aspirin before I start, because Warduke gives me a headache. All right. Who are we going to take? We're gonna bring in Beetle and Grim. We're gonna bring in Beetle and Grim. For now. Slot 9. We have one of my favorite tanks, historically speaking, Ayla. Ayla is a self-shielding beast of a tank. She does qualify. Lazaps, our shortest tank. She is our artificer, but she also qualifies. We got the Makos. You should know Makos. He's a core champion. We also got Nordum in slot 9. Sure. I'm not going to throw anybody in from slot 9, though. I have made other choices. Again, Ayla, a great option if you need multiple tanks in the front line, and maybe you're missing out on some of these others, right? Slot 10. Wolfgar technically does qualify. Again, strong boy. Bash bro. He'll do that. But you also got Barrowin now. I mean, look, if they're a dwarf and they're in armor and they're being all dwarven and stuff, I'm in. And Barrowin meets that requirement. Havalar can also tank and is strong enough. Tyrell, he can either be a support or a tank. Tyrell meets the requirements. Toragar, the Minotaur from the Dark Order, also big beefy boy that's been seen in been seen in lots of Krond formations, historically speaking. And Yorvin is a DPS, but also has like a debuff thing going on. Yorvin apparently also qualifies. In this scenario, though, Barrowin. I got Barrowin in her new agent skin because Barrowin. Barrowin just, again, Season 3, we're hot off the presses of Season 3, and that can, these reworks can change some things. Barrowin also coming out with a mighty hammer and some mighty buffs from Season 3, so someone you can consider now in slot 10. Slot 11, Jamila. Jamila technically qualifies. Jamila is just, again, a DPS. If you have to fill, you could fill with Jamila. Warden is also here. Warden is a DPS/support. Warden has a Hex debuff that's sticky. So usually what I would say is if have Warden as an option. If he needs to be in the formation because you don't have anybody else, go for it. But usually if I bring in Warden only if I want to stick his debuff to something and then pull him back out and put somebody else in and get the benefits of both. And then slot 12, obviously Archon, but Archon's cruel. Archon prefers to really keep things to himself. He can help out Krond a little bit. We've got Azaka, technically. We've got Melf, Miria, Neris, and Celise. There's a lot of options here. Celise being a tank, Melf, Azaka, and Neris all doing the buffages. Miria, though, buffs and tanks, and tanks in a way that it's kind of a damage reduction with the zombie up in front of whoever is in the front column, and that's kind of where we're going. I'm going for that action, I think. Well, let me check on the crown here. Oh, I just need 4 more ultimates. What do you know? 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Right? Yep. Okay. We got Voronika transformed. Let's load in my actual formation, and then we're going to hit the auto progress button. Okay, so here's where I kind of like to do stuff. So ultimately with Krond, because Krond can go anywhere, this comes down to formation building 101. I've got a guide. I've got that literal guide on the subreddit. Check it out. So you just want to find a way to optimize the positioning of each champion. And when you're looking at your options in your bench slots, keep that in mind. Some of the choices I made here were because of the positioning I had available in other formation layouts, so other campaigns or other event formations or in trials. I might choose different champions. That's how the game kind of works, in my opinion. Yeah, it's not always one single group. So know your options, know what you have available, pick the best option. Oh, I forgot. Turn on. I'm not at my wall yet. But you know, I'm getting there. I think we're doing still a lot of damage. Yeah, so we're over E400 here. Now keep in mind, end game account, legendary items, blah, blah, blah. This is low. I'm going to argue this is low for Krond mains. I'm not a Krond main, so this is low for Krond users. Let's say that. This is low for Krond users. But here's the thing. E400 gets me through most things just fine. Most things just fine. So, you know, it depends on what you're trying to do with Krond. If you're trying to just complete variants, yeah, this formation works for me. If I'm trying to see just how far I truly can go, then when I get to my actual wall and I stop being able to push forward, then I'll start messing around with my formation. I'll start swapping people in and out. I'll tag team Beetle and Grim. This is why I have them in there. They're basically building up. The way they function is they can build up long rest stacks, and that's going to buff the other one when they come in. And then I'll, you know, there's stuff that goes on here. Just things that I enjoy playing with it. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean this is optimal, but obviously it's highly functional. There are multiple Modron cores that can work with Krond. Obviously, the Modest core right out of the gate that you get as your very first core has solid and decent buffs for Krond. But remember, there's a couple other cores that are going to work here. The Magic core works with Krond because remember, a good chunk of his damage is that cantrip, so you can use the Magic core. I will caution, remember the Magic core is a glass cannon core. That's what we refer to it as because it has no survivability. There's no health nodes. So it gives you lots of damage, but then it doesn't back it up with any survivability if things get to the front line of your formation. The other core that now is kind of a big deal is the unaffiliated core. Krond is unaffiliated. The unaffiliated core is the only core in the game currently that can have every node supercharged to the max, to the biggest multipliers. It puts out a lot of damage. So that's one of the things that's giving us damage here. Yeah. Now you can see I've got 8 stacks. We went from an E05 buff with 1 stack up to an E27 buff. Now if I just want to make this number get real big, I can swap in 2 more people that meet the requirements. But the goal here isn't just to make this number look real big. The goal here is to push as far as possible. Sometimes this buff being a little smaller, but a huge buff coming in from somebody who doesn't qualify is a better situation. Again, it's something you find out when you get to your wall. Not even your bud number is going to tell you. Look, as we all know, base DPS, if you hover this, base DPS tells you it's lying. Running average tells you, well, it's lying a little bit. It's not being completely honest with you. Bud's being honest. Well, it looks like it's being honest. Something is currently wrong with damage references in the game, especially when you interact with to Bud and the number, especially when you're interacting with anything that has debuffs on it. There's still some weirdness. So the best way to figure out what the best formation is really to go to that point where you weren't able to kill things before you died. Make a change to your formation. At that point, like, Bud is good up until then. At that point, it's really, are you able to push forward or not? And you can ignore Bud. I have made swaps that have lowered my Bud, but allowed me to push. I've done this on stream before. People were like, what? That shouldn't, what? So just know numbers aren't always, these numbers definite lies. Don't follow this. Follow this, but even it is not the way, the truth, and the light, because ultimately wherever you're able to get to is the best thing. So no, a combination of Bud and the area you're able to push through is your best way to figure out if your formation is the best possible one for you or not. Okay. See, no, did all that. No, that's, can you just close? Thank you. I think we're going to stop there early because for some reason I feel like people are going to have some questions. Oh, we only got like 4 or 5, so I guess not. But I think we're gonna break quickly, and then we'll go into the Q&A. We can try some other combinations here. Oh, I guess I should point out, yes, I said I was going to talk about one of the swaps. So Averin does not qualify for survival of the fittest, but Averin is one of the best buffers in the game. So putting Averin in the right situation. Oh, hey, maybe that's why I had Beelan Grim there. Putting Averin in the right situation could potentially, once Averin puts out his mirror images, can potentially raise our damage, even though we're not meeting those requirements anymore, right? So here, I'm already up a couple. I only have 1 mirror image out, and our damage already went up a little bit. Once one of those mirror images lands on Krond, which isn't guaranteed with as many evil people are in this formation, the damage will go up significantly. The damage will go up. So there we go. We're already up to 418. So see, I took somebody out who qualified for survival of the fittest, but I replace them with someone who buffs even better. Not only am I over buffing from survival of the fittest, plus I'm also over buffing based off whatever that champion was offering, right? That's what we have to look at. So if it works out great. Here, see, our Bud's already gone up. But again, remember, Bud isn't always everything. The true test of this is when I get to my wall. Oh, and I did mention Narak. Hold on, let's talk Narak for a second. Narak. So Narak buffs anybody who has a high wisdom. So with Gaarawarr focus, let's talk about Gaarawarr focus real quick. Wisdom 14 or higher. Hey, guess what? Our boy Krond, wisdom 14, which means Gaarawarr focus is going to buff survival of the fittest. So if you end up in a situation where you need that, and now Narak doesn't qualify for the other things, but again, it could be a situation where you don't have strong or evil people to buff Krond, but Krond is your DPS. That's going to be your best DPS for the situation. You can bring Narak in. Narak will boost this up a bit. Now, ideally, you're going to want to put Narak somewhere where they're boosting more people than just Krond. Just know that is definitely an option. Definitely an option. Again, not necessarily the best option here, but it doesn't always, like, again, you're given, there are many times in this game where you will be given suboptimal choices to make. And you just have to make the most optimal decisions based off the suboptimal selections. All right, we're going to take a short break. What song is this? I think this is Torgar's Savage Fire, because Torgar does Torgar, our big Minotaur boy. Special shout out to the big boy himself. He does work well. I think, but I like Barrowin now, but I like dwarves. People, I don't know if now Torgar is better. Again, I was going to test this at my wall. Didn't get to my wall because it just kept going so far. So much damage. So Torgar, Yeah. Savage Fire. Here you go. Be right back, folks.
I serve this master on my own. I cling to no one, I just roam. Dark order calls and I do right. Cut across the ground like a devil's knife. Legions rise up in my command, slaying our foes across the land. And for my master I will die, but not before I take your life. Upon my fiery place will be your life bloodstains. The pounding drums of war will be this song's refrain. I am pure savagery, the primal rage untamed. I am a conqueror in her unholy name. Reckless anger, savage solo. Dark tower reaches to the sky. Ancient dragons circling high. Standing below, we wage our war for the queen of dragonkind forevermore. We are unstoppable, we are her righteous wrath. We will set her free, I can let her time is back. We are pure savagery and primal rage untamed. We are the conquerors in her unholy name. Rise,
And we're back. And we're back. I like that song. Yeah, you can find that one in the jukebox. We're going to dive into questions on Krond. The Imaginal Disc asks, how does the Shocking Grass bud-based mechanic work? Bud-based mechanic? I mean, the part where it's supposed to give you better damage. Yeah. Again, you hit the thing, it stuns them. They're supposed to take more damage from the cantrips. I have never noticed a big difference. But again, I don't usually use the Shocking Grasp. Single target as a DPS is problematic in this game. Now, if you have, look, I have so many potions of specializations. If I was trying to do a variant and I got to the end and it was just one boss and killing that boss was problematic, sure, I could spec into like Shocking Grasp and see if that would help. But because these are things that you have to choose and then you have them the whole time, trying to push to the levels that I would push to and use a single target DPS, super problematic in my experience. Super problematic. I don't think they've ever stated publicly the value of the Shocking Grasp debuff. If they had, it would probably be in my guide, and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it listed. Yeah, yeah. So to my knowledge, they haven't given exact values on that. So you're kind of at the whim of guesstimates from the community. And at that point, it's like... so it's hard to say. I know you just said, how does it compare to other champions like Birdsong and Stokey? I mean, Birdsong is a different champion. Birdsong gets multi-attack and has buffs to herself, and I think it's the ultimate that lets you do a little more damage. But that's a vastly different. I don't think they compare. Oh, did my captions shut off? Dang it. Sorry, folks. Okay, they're back on. Apologies. I don't think you could compare Birdsong and Krond directly. Because Birdsong, again, Krond, single target DPS with a spec choice into that Shocking Grasp that potentially has some kind of a debuff associated with it. Stays single target wave clear. Birdsong multi-attacker. Multi-attacker keeps the multi-attack, gets the other thing on a turn on, right? Like on a power button. Yeah. So it's the stun that lasts the 3 seconds. You get the stun. Birdsong doesn't have a stun, but I don't know. I don't value... Stuns are situational for me in this game, and really... I find them better off on support champions. I like them better on support champions. Because there's a DPS champion, Lucius, that likes crowd control effects. That's the only time I'm like, oh yeah, they've got stuns, I want them in. Currently, we don't have a whole lot in the game that like triggers off of stuns. Like if stunning someone was more of a D&D effect where suddenly this kind of does this. They take more damage, right? It's kind of, they're trying to give you that, they're grappled or whatever type of situation and you get some bonus, but they just haven't been clear about what the bonus is. I think that's a good question for Dev Insights is like, what is this specific thing? I don't know if they'll be able to get it to you. Maybe it's a Reddit Q&A thing. Sean can go look it up. But I don't know that it's ever been shared publicly. Ricardoso, ridiculous numbers aside, what item level hammer would you say is functional or even pretty okay? I mean, look, I'm in the E400s on the back of other things here, and this is an item level 600 Krond. I just know things get ridiculous the higher it goes. Like the beastly damage tends to come much higher item level than this. This is on the back of this is truly on the back of the core, and legendaries that are just base level legendaries on base level on some of these. Like I haven't boosted Krond's legendary items, but some of these other champions have boosted legendaries, and then it's just off numbers, and then it's just off pure numbers. So, I think if I had a lower item level Krond, you know, I don't know that I'd have broken. Like if I was average item level in the 200s, I might not have gotten into the E400s, but I'd still be up there, right? And the point of these shows is like, hey, here's a bunch of different options, like Ashara, Zorbu, Artemis, Krond, right? Like, know how to use them. If you want to go all in on them, know that they pay off. Like Krond and Artemis pay off huge dividends currently in the game. They've been this way for a long time. It's I think most of the community feels like that's never going to change. So, you know, this is more here's how to use them. Here's what it kind of looks like, but know that the more you invest in Krond, the bigger the return. Kind of like Briv in terms of speed. The more you put in, the more you get back. Magical Disc. If Baloth is buffing Krond, what specialization is best? Oh. If you're truly trying to put... This is a Baloth question, but if you're truly trying to push with Baloth, then it's the right spec. Always. The right spec is going to give the most damage. It's the one that buffs Generous Jin, and Generous Jin is the big buff off Baloth. You can put Baloth in and not Jin stack at all and still get solid numbers out of Baloth. But the true power of Baloth comes when you take the time to Jin stack. We've covered this in other episodes, and again, this isn't this was just talking specifically about Krond and giving you options, but basically killing off each of the party members one by one in a very specific way for Baloth to buff them with Najim gives you tons of damage, and the right hand spec for Baloth is the buff for that. So it's the best one. Now, if you already know, here's the thing. The others are situational. I always talk about the other specs for Baloth. They're situational. If you already know you have more than enough damage to get to the end of this, and you just want to cruise through it easier, you can run one of those other specs. And you can get those bonuses. But that's not really like, if you're trying to talk about optimization, it's the right hand spec. Like, biggest numbers. Chevy goes, biggest numbers not always best? What? Yeah, look, I had a stream recently where I was pushing and I was messing around with some different options, and I'm all like, well, I'm getting ready for an Azaka farm anyway. I'm going to throw in Krull and level up Krull. And suddenly, even though the bud went down a significant amount, we started pushing again because Krull. Just Krull things. So there's some weird stuff still going on with debuffs and Krull's trader procs and stuff that's allowing Krull to push your formation further, even though your bud is lower than you think should be pushing your formation. So that's why I say, look, you combine Bud with the area level indicator at the top right. Between those two things, you're going to get your best idea of what your best formation is. Just don't don't throw something in and go, well, my Bud's dropping. Obviously, this isn't optimal. That's not always true. That's not always true. Sometimes you want some debuffs. Sometimes you might need a little more survivability. Especially pushing into, I think my pushing formations currently now go into the 1600s. And when the tank falls over, the tank goes boom, real big boom. Miria is almost kind of my go-to now for all of my D-push because of the survivability she offers the tank line. But that's just me. That's because I don't have super OP damage on people, and I'm not really looking to. Not really looking to. I lose a lot of... For me, a lot of the enjoyment of this game is solving the puzzles. And if the solution to every puzzle is the square hole, I don't enjoy the game anymore. To understand that reference, Google the square hole. There's a video for that. Rough Rider. How often do you complete an adventure variant with Krond? Not that often, honestly. I have done it on occasion, but I mean, the reality is, because anytime you have a situation where the power is based off a specific full formation, that makes it a little more difficult to use. A little more difficult to use. Not always. But when I'm doing variants and I run into trouble in variants, it's usually because I have been highly limited on my champion selection. My general account power here is just is higher and lets me cruise through a lot of stuff. So then it becomes very situational, and I'm really trying to eke out every last bit of damage. There have been times where Krond was that person. But it varies a lot. Right now, my go-to DPS is Birdsong, because of the recent changes and because of the season stuff and the unaffiliated core. But again, I'm putting out Krond right now. I'm not even up to where I'm usually getting. These things only have E374 health. We're E50 ahead of that. Krond's probably comparative. My Krond is probably gets close to that, to Birdsong right now. But my Birdsong is beefy. And again, I haven't heavily invested into Krond. Imagine this: is there a best way to farm item levels for Krond? Gem farming for blacksmithing, patron chest, or something else? I mean, the best way to get item levels in this game is automated Briv gem farming. But that's not available to everybody right away. You got to build up to it. I do that a lot on this account. Obviously, I just spent a bunch of gems, but I had like 1.5 million yesterday, and I'm down some. Yeah, that generates just an infinite amount of gems. Now, that doesn't mean you exclude things like patron chests or time gates. If you've got those things, you can use them. It just depends on like what your gem farming capabilities are. Did you use all your patrons? I've got lots of patron stuff. Now, I believe Krond only qualifies for 3 of the payment. I don't think Krond qualifies for Zerial, so you could open patron chests for the others. Potentially get gear for Krond, but it's kind of a random roll. Which means gem farming for blacksmithing contracts is kind of the best way to really directly boost a single champion. Because I can pop a blacksmithing contract and just choose Krond. Right? The rest is just kind of, you might get a roll, but it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. I'm going to be doing, I stream Idle Champions on my own channel, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr. You can see the stuff below. And on Monday, I'm going to be taking my new player account and attempting to build an automated Briv Modron farm, or gem farm. It uses Modrons. It doesn't use scripting at all. I think, but based off what the people in the community who really dig into this say, my Briv should be strong enough. We'll see if I can make it work. So if you want to learn all the headaches that go into that, I'll be doing that Monday on my channel. Niscus. Or if you want a lot of item levels, you could just get a job at CNE. Yeah, apparently that works too. This Sean knows about that. Spilo, you mentioned Narak. How does that work with Krond? Oh, we kind of went over that. Oh, yeah, I did that. I did that thing. Again, it's another situational option. You're going to want Narak next to Krond. You're also going to want Narak hopefully next to anyone else who meets his wisdom requirement. Get as many multipliers as you can going on in there. And that's the last of the specific questions. Let's start diving into generic stuff. Gordas, will Birdsong still be your go-to after the season buffs end? Probably. I mean, for a little while. I tend to like... I enjoy seasons in the way they kind of shift who you're using, and so I'll use that champion during the seasons. Like I used Lucius during a previous season, etc. Right? Like I'll try those champions out because I've been playing this game for 5.5 years, and variety is nice. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm losing an EO5 buff. With the numbers I'm putting out with Birdsong, I don't know that That's a huge loss. Also, again, I guess there's an EO4 also for unaffiliated, but yeah. I still think Birdsong's going to be pretty strong. And again, it's one of those things where I push real deep in whatever I'm attempting to complete. And if that doesn't get me there, then I try other things. Usually what I do when a season ends and the buffs all go away is I'll pick a campaign, I'll do a deep push in it, and I'll try out all my DPS options and see how they're performing. And I do that all in one run to figure out kind of my own personal tier list. I don't do tier lists because generic tier list for everyone doesn't really work. But because of the, very specific nature of things and the way you power up in this game, it lets me know who my strongest champions are, and where I can go for finishing variants. So I will do that after the season ends, and we'll see where Birdsong ends up. But doing it during the season is pointless. Spilo back again. What's your best guess of Season 4 champions? I can't go anywhere near that question. I just want to let you know. Because it wouldn't be a guess. I know who they are. I could tell you Daddy Wolfgar is coming. Because that was in the image that they presented of Legends of Mithril Hall. Yeah. We'll find out very soon. But yeah, that image that's a side. I'm so excited. That better be one of the skins for Wolfgar, because that's just a fantastic image. Yeah. Shevik, with a new patron variants offering rich rewards. Rich rewards. Is there a reason to leave all that patron currency in the bank? I will count. So here's the reference to rich rewards, folks. Some of the new patron variants that came out this week in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I think I saw somebody say that the Zariel one gives 2 million current patron currency for Zariel if you complete it. Because the currency amount and the influence amount are based off the area completion goal, and the base adventure for that had us go to 1,000. So CNE kind of played themselves with their number scaling, and now I think you can get enough influence off that to max out all your perks without needing anything else either. But that would only happen if you could even finish that adventure, and it's a big ask. Without perks, that's a big ask. So yeah, I don't know. I would counter that question, Shevik, with the same old patron stuff offered in the store. Is there a reason to spend my currency? You gotta remember, I have all this stuff. I have all this one-time purchase stuff. I buy my Modron component chest each week. I don't buy potions like these epic potions, the huge ones, because I don't run out of them. So why buy them? I don't buy my time gate pieces anymore. This is very end game, folks. I don't buy my time gate pieces anymore because I've got like 500 of them or something that I don't use. And I guess I just don't bother with patron chests because my champions are full epic, and if I want item levels for them, I'm just gonna use blacksmith contracts. Honestly, my lowest average item level, my average item level floor for all my champions is average item level 200. That's real strong. I'm actually worried if I raise them up much higher than that the content in the game won't be challenging. So, yeah. And at that point, if it stops being challenging for me, I run the risk of then not playing anymore. And I enjoy the game. I'd like to keep playing it. Loopy, any word on when the other other four champions will be announced? Generally speaking, this season has to end, and it's going to end in 4 days. And then there's like the last few times there was like a week where there was like a little bit of a, I mean, it was still it was like season-ish. I think you could still buy stuff if you needed to. And I think the buff stayed around. And then after that, we had like, it went away. And then there was like and then we got the announcement of all the champions along with patch notes of their changes as a preview. And they pushed those changes live before the season started. So I maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks from now would be my guess, but I don't know that for sure. That's just a guess based off what's going on. Well, I don't know for sure. That's my guess based off the way that previous seasons have been. Spieler, what are the suggested easy high-level Patreon variants to do? Yeah, we covered this yesterday too. It's Baldur's Gate is where I tend to send people. This is kind of the first place. I mean, you might get patrons as you're moving through Tomb and Waterdeep. You might unlock them. I don't recommend grinding them out. On my new player count, I just did like one patron variant for each of them each week, just to get the currency to buy like my Time Gate piece or my Modron component chest. If I had that unlocked, if I had enough influence for that. And then I didn't really try to do lots of them until I got to Baldur's Gate. And by lots, I mean I did like 4 or 5. I did 5 here in Baldur's Gate. So the 5 are, in kind of order I did them in, Ragadraga's crew. So with Mert's this kind of the starter patron. He's going to boost this area completion goal by 100. So you're going to get a lot of currency and influence here. But there isn't really a major restriction, really a restriction here at all. You're just killing extra things. So, right, that's not really challenging. So that makes it a very easy patron thing to do. Knock it out with all your patrons. I recommend just picking one patron, working through each of these with a single patron, if you can, and try to do that. When you get your first batch of influence from completing this, lean into the local side and not the global side. So try to max out the local and just get enough of whatever you need on the global to get the next local open, and just kind of efficiently spend, because that local damage is going to let you complete the rest of these. Then we come over here, I believe, Relentless Peril. I recommend doing this one offline, like set up your formation with familiars if you have them, and then do this one offline, because they have twice as much health, and then they get back up again, and it just kind of slows progress down, but it's super easy. Super easy. Again, your Patron Mert. I can say the combinations both wrong ways, but I can't say it correctly. Patron Mert bonus is going to be 625. So again, you get a lot of influence and currency off of this without a whole lot of restriction. After that one, I actually have changed kind of the order I do this. I come up here and I do the Archduke's Blessing. Again, this one's better offline, I think. Set it up and then set it and forget it. Just, you could put it in a background formation, or you could turn your client off. Because there's a cultist that shows up. It has armored hit points and does a lot of damage, and everything else can't be, like the bosses can't be damaged what's on the screen, but offline it just cruises right through stuff like this. Because it's a simulation. It's just checking your damage to see that you're doing it, and you're not having to sit there and watch it do it over and over again. After that one, where did I came back down to here? Madcap Adventures Redux. Again, each time you're completing one of these, you're just boosting your patron like your perks based off the influence. Heavy on the local. So by the time you get here, this lower goal is just you're gonna fly right through it. And then come back over here for Madness of Yenogu. It's going to be a much higher goal. Enemies deal 200% additional damage and move 200% faster, and a champion gets stunned when you kill something. Again, this is one of those you set up with familiars, put it in the background and turn your client off. And I just turn the client off usually when I do these. And then it just cruises right through it. I check on it later. Those 5 will should max out tier 5 patron perks for you, and get you into 6 and 7 for some of the patrons, if not all. You'll also have bank currency. You'll be able to buy all each of the patron familiars, which is great. That's why I recommend doing one at a time, so it helps you like set up your offline stuff. So, you know, it boosts you straight through to that patron familiar. That's what I kind of save the currency for. And then you can go from there. After this, I'm still trying to figure out, there's like people like Icequake and Icewind Dale, but, I found when I tried it with Mert, because Birdsong's my current DPS on that account, I couldn't do it because I lost Birdsong. But I might be able to do the others. So it gets a little more finicky there after that. It's really because you need a lot of power to start pushing into some of the higher level stuff in Icewind Dale and Wild Beyond the Witchlight. And you may not have a max core yet. I know I don't. I think on my new account, I'm only like 10 weeks in on that account. My core is like level 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know. It's still low. So yeah, but you know, from that point on, you'll have a lot of the good bonuses. You'll have a lot of the perks. You'll be able to do a lot of other patron stuff. Maybe not the super high, super high stuff, but you'll be able to cruise through. You'll have a lot of power. You'll be able to get a lot of things done. And really early on, I think your goal is just make sure at that point, once you have like that familiar, just make sure you're buying your time gate piece and your Modron chest each week, and you're good. And then wait for more power to really go through the rest of it. I don't think you should like punish yourself by trying to grind through lots of things. Everything I just stated is like, well, there you go. I mean, that was five variants. So I don't even think I'm into double-digit variant completion on my patron account or on my new player account for patrons, for any of the patrons, in terms of the number of variants completed. But I get my my time gate piece and my Modron component chest. I've gotten the free familiars, and I've even picked up like a feat that was important. And to me, the rest can kind of wait. Yeah. Dark Drake asks, which one should I pick, Stokey Black Viper or Beetle and Grim? Dark Drake, I'm assuming you're talking like is it your natural time gate? Is it your natural time gate weekend? Because it's not as straightforward as that always. It's just like which one is better. What I kind of need to know is how many champions do you have in each of those slots, like for what they're offering. So if it's your natural time gate, when you open this up, whatever these are, like if you don't own them, it should show however many champions you own in that slot. I need to know that, because early on, that's kind of the priority until you have 4 champions in every slot. So if you have 4 champions in each of those slots, then my answer is going to be Beetle and Grim. But if you don't, then it's whatever slot has the lowest number of champions in it. Does that make sense? Because trying to get to split the party and its iterations, so split the party 2, split the party 3. Split the party needs 2 champions in each slot. Split the party 2 needs 3 champions in each slot. And split the party 3 needs 4 champions in each slot. And those are kind of priority stepping stones for new players. To a certain degree, even more important than which champion are you getting from your natural time gate weekend. Speaking of, if you have questions about natural time gate weekends, it's whichever of the 3 it shows for you is free up here. Let me know those champions. Just let me know how many champions you have in each slot, and we can give you a recommendation. We can give you a recommendation. How does one get the speed core? Guile 974. It's split the party 2. So the one where you need 3 champions in every slot. So that's really why I'm like, look, you need to try to get through split the party 1 and 2 as quickly as possible. Because early on, that speed core, to me, is the most important core that you unlock through those. Because the first one you get is the modest core. It's okay. It's in the name. It's modest. And then the last one you get is the magic core, and it's... because it's a glass cannon core, and so much requires survivability kind of at end game that... Yeah, I don't know. They were trying something different. But that fast core, man, that speed core, always useful. And when you get it maxed out, it provides a lot of power. In fact, it's only like a few orders of magnitude off of the total power from, like maybe 5 or so off of the total all champs damage from the modest core if you have that one boosted. So I tend to just run the speed core for most things, and then I switch. Again, right now, like the unaffiliated core is kind of boss for the champions that I've been using. Yeah. I do like this misspelled Beagle and Grim. I like Beagle. Beagle. We need a new skin where they're anamorphic dogs. Beagle and Grim. I don't know what Grim would be, but that would be great. Oh my god. I'm using their Vampire Hunter skin. I should switch over to the take this skin now. For the month, yeah, it's a polymorph. Anthropomorphic, that's the term. I knew that wasn't quite right. I was like, Animorphs was a TV show. That wasn't the thing. Anthropomorphic. All right, folks, we still got about a half an hour left. If you have questions about the game, it doesn't even have to be about Krond. I know Krond is a very specific champion, and maybe he's not to your taste. But if you have any other questions, fire away. Maybe we'll throw some speed on. Let's see how far we can get with our boy Krond. If we go in speed up mode. I mean, we got solid bud here, so yeah. I mean, I guess we can. What are we doing? If I were to just boost this straight for who do I need to take out? I need to swap here, just so you can see what it looks like if they're full. Oh, no, she is evil. If we're doing full on attempt to just max survival of the fittest, there's a little bit of a jump, yeah? So 10 stacks puts me up into the E34 range. But again, while that's super nice, having the other strong buffers tends to be a little better. But your methods may vary. This is just a function of, for me, it's a function of legendaries. Legendaries have made it next to impossible to really say, here are the best kind of formations at the end, and have it be true for every account. In a worse way, that's never really been a thing in Idle Champions, because you could have higher item levels or a different rarity, or maybe you got a shiny on something and that affects things. But legendaries, oh man, which legendaries do you have? On who and at what level are they is a major power focus at endgame, and it changes the balance of formations in a big way, especially depending on how much time you've had to reforge the legendary into something that fits the formation you're using and doesn't actively work against it. I told my community on my stream, I'm going to make a lot of people mad by doing this, but my reforging, my long-term reforging goal, because you can only reforge like once a week, truly, to use minimal scales. You can only reforge once a week. So my long-term reforging goal is to reforge everything on everyone into just the most generic all champions damage, so that no matter who I'm using, everybody gets buffed equally. Which is going to upset people who like to specialize, because that's suboptimal for picking a specific group, but it will let me keep that legendary power in every formation I use people in. The thing is because you can only reforge once a week, it's a goal I'm probably never going to accomplish, because it just takes too long. It's like it's the problem that we had in the old Forge. They kept that same problem. They just made that problem reforging instead of forging, and it's Gordis as says, I'm a hoarder by nature, so I'm bad at using consumables. Look, stop calling me out on stream. Should I use potions regularly, and will the rewards from doing that make them self-sustaining? Self-sustaining, probably not. There is a self-sustaining nature in one very specific thing, and that's automated Briv gem farming. There is a certain amount of power you can get to where you're using speed potions all the time, and they can you're generating enough gems that you self-sustain that use. The problem is I've come close to that. I've come pretty close to that, and I generate so much of these others that it's like, I can't possibly use all these potions. I just can't. There's too many. I have EO4 of some potions, and I don't even have large amounts. I wouldn't even say I have large amounts. I'm at the point now where I think I have more large potions than I can really use for speed. For speed! I may burn through some of them just because I can in my gem farming. I tend to hoard mine for use in variants where I'm having troubles, or when I'm doing deep pushes for favor. Those are the places I use potions. Now, could you just use them anywhere? Sure. There are some places that are better than others, like when you're doing split the party, having a full stack of gold find potions, and by full stack, I mean having this whole setup available, like each of these, so while you're doing them, with at least a 10x speed, gives you the gold you need to get through those. And if you have this and this as well, bonus. But you are gold starved in split the party, and it is super slow, so those two are huge. So there are places where you definitely want to use them, but self-sustaining is, once you start gem farming, you're going to find you have everything more potions than you can ever need except for speed. You're always going to want speed potions. As noted in the chat, there has been a talk about an alchemy system for potions where you can like either trade up or down. I don't remember all the details at the moment. My head's a little fuzzy. But they're trying to give us options, and I do remember one thing. They just announced Justin said he's thinking of introducing a legendary potion tier. So like we have these kind of these big things, right? And there's legendary potions that are like for other things, but like something that's even bigger than these potentially, that's only available through the alchemy system, but we don't have any details yet. Oh yeah, Helga Pete. I run when I start my trials run, I click all of these. I run one of each of these my first trials run, along with one of those, just for the 10x, and then I push super far, get a lot done on my first run. Any run after that, I use this side plus 10x speed, just because at that point I may want click damage to wear off. But first run and deep runs of things. Unless I'm doing like if I think I'm going to switch to click debuff at any point, I won't use one of these. Because this fire breath potions, click damage potions deactivate the ability to click debuff. Regis, I'm going to say Regis 2K. Is the strong core worth saving up for when you already got 4 parties plus cores available? It is my opinion that the strong core is only worth saving up for if it is the best core for whoever your all-in DPS is. That used to be potentially Krond or Artemis, but I don't think it is anymore. I think the unaffiliated is for Krond and Artemis. Possibly. So I am still of the opinion that no, it's not worth getting at all. Now, at some point, you may earn like 500,000 gems in a week, and you're like, you know what? I'll give a week's worth of gems to that. Or a week or less. Yeah, I don't mind giving gems to that. I mean, sure. But I don't know that it offers anything, especially if you already have enough cores to automate your party. Or to automate your background parties. Oh, that was weird. That should have been here. Valimar Night Road. This season, what do you think is the best value? Is it tier 11? For a free-to-play account, on my free-to-play account, everything went here, and boy, did that pay off dividends. I think I had 90,000 currency left over on free-to-play after buying all of just the free-to-play path. So I got like 45 of these packs, and it threw my Briv through the roof. It threw my Human up to 100% chance when surrounded by 4 people. It's just it's a big deal. I recommend this. I recommend this for free-to-play path peoples. And then pay-to-play, it's Modron component chest. It's always going to be Modron component chest for me, unless they give a better option. They had last time they did scales. I think they realized that was maybe a mistake, because that was the way to go then. But now it's back to Modron component chests, so I've put all my money there. In fact, I haven't opened my time gate. I got to do that. Oh God, I got to do that right now. Hold on. I need to at least complete that quest. We're doing Jim because he's the lowest item level. There, I opened a time gate. Give me my rewards. Give me my rewards. Boom. Because even now, I mean, sure, I've got a supercharged unaffiliated core, but I'd like to supercharge all the cores without having to share pipes. And I have a lot of pipes, but I still can't perfectly set up all the other. I still want to do that. So I'm always going to be buying more Modron component, or I'm always going to be picking Modron component chests like that. Wicked One. Have you experimented with Krond, Puent, and Human? Slow, powerful bud setting, then the 5 seconds of bud from Human's item. No, but I see where you're going with that. I still worry about wave clear in that situation. Again, anytime I have like a single target DPS, I get real worried about my ability to wave clear. So if I can combine them with someone that gives wave clear, great. But like if you're just trying to spike your bud, it feels like what you're trying to do is rely on your ultimates for wave clear, and that only lasts so far. There's a point where you can usually push further than your ultimates can kill for you. So at that point, that means any bud-based ability isn't really going to help you push. I mean, it could get you through stuff. I'm not saying it's not a combo worth attempting. It's just I don't know if it's like an end-all be-all thing. Spank you, I'm a new player and have Birdsong from the latest season. Nice. What support should I be used to be buffing her? Birdsong is a woman. The others from the season are big. I use Spurt and I use Barrowin. Beyond that, it's like whoever your best ones. If you're a newer player, It really just heavily comes down to like what gear is on the champions and what the item levels for that gear is sometimes as well. So it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say. If you were able to pick up these other champions and get gear for them and item levels for them, then they're going to help out a lot. Turiel not so much. Turiel only in a multi-tank front line, but everybody else can play in that playground with Birdsong. And Birdsong's other than that, Birdsong's pretty generic. I mean, there are boosts to the second specialization based off who's in your formation, but I don't necessarily build a formation around that. That's just kind of, to me, a secondary bonus. Lurking Rider, and now that we know Avandra will be joining Nixie and Antreus, what are your initial thoughts of the Awful Ones affiliation? I mean, they're kind of going all in on bad stats, which makes sense for them. And buffing and wanting people with bad stats in the formation. So I think it's an interesting affiliation so far. I am really waiting to see if Avandra is going to be pre-stack or post-stack on her specialization item. And if she has feats for that. Is it pre-stack or post-stack? As we talked about here with Krond, there's the potential for her to be a pre-stack in the same way Krond is, but as a buffer, which is wild. Antreus came out that way, but Nixie came out post-stack with a similar buff, so they're kind of 50-50. I don't know what they're going to do with Avandra, and that's going to determine a lot of, like, are they just becoming a real strong group to focus around or not, right? Regis 2K, which stacking champions are worth farming for? Zorbu, Torga, Black Viper, etc. Zorbu for sure. Zorbu's still one of like the top group of, like, if you say like top 10 options for DPS. Zorbu's still up there, in my opinion. He does need farmed, but he only needs to get like EO5 stacks across each of his thing. Anything above that is butter. Like you're gonna enjoy it, but it's not necessarily required. Beyond that, Torgar is the more balanced of the stacking champions. Black Viper is the more underpowered of the stack is on the underpowered level, and Dahani is like the worst for permanent stacks currently, unfortunately. I like the painting burb, but it doesn't really provide the performance I was hoping for. The Mole's Revenge. I've recently got access to the Legendary Forge. Nice! And a bunch of scales from rewards. I haven't done the trials yet. I get doing that. You can do, if you unlock trials, you can do normal, easy. And start working your way up the trials ladder. I have no idea where to start with forging. Well, the only thing you're going to be able to forge a legendary for is an epic item. So look at who you're using as your primary. I think the focus should be like your primary deep push group, that you think kind of works like for favor in places. Whatever that primary deep pushing group, if they have an epic, your DPS in that group should be your first target, because every single one of their forge options is going to come up as good for them, and then supports after that. But it is limited based off the number. You can only turn an epic into a legendary. So I don't know if you have lots of epics. On my new player account, I've got legendaries with blues and maybe even a green occasionally, because I don't have lots of epics yet. So it is really based on if you've got the epic items. Satesh, is Human's Corrupted Gem Feat worth the purchase, or is it best to stick with pigments? This is real subjective, and it kind of depends on how you want to play the game and what kind of patience you have. Will the feat eventually show up in the gem shop if I don't purchase it now? Well, not the gem shop, but it will show up in their feat list for you to purchase with gems, is what they've stated. It is going to take a while. It's going to take months. So I look at what we're talking about as the Thayan Enclave shop here. what I do is I look at these as, hey, guess what's coming in a few months? And I'm just going to wait for it. This is an amazing feat. If you can get Human up, if this will trigger Human's biggest bonus for Hello Fellow Humans, it's his biggest buffing feat. It's wild. Yeah. But only in the kind of those situations. I mean, well, maybe in multiple situations, but it really gives the best one if it's getting you to that top tier. But I just look at this as, hey, this is what I get to buy with gems in a few months. I went all in on pigments. It doesn't mean you have to. If you don't normally spend cash on the game, but you want some feats and you like these feats, well, these skins are going to end up in the cash shop. This golden epic's going to end up in the cash shop. So it's your opportunity to pick up, to decide, hey, I want some of these. I want some of these nice things without having to pay cash, and you can use an in-game earned currency, right? This is power. It's a 200%, so it's a triple damage type thing, and but you can only put one per item per champion, so you could have 6 of these on a single champion if you wanted. And that's neat. It looks like they're going to be around. They're going to restock and give you 10 more here in the next turnaround. And it's first in, first out. So if you buy more of those, it'll buy the ones that are expiring the soonest, the earliest, so that it's in your favor. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, what do you want? Do you want a little fun personalizations? Are you fine with the power on your account? Or do you want, are you grasping at what little power you can get everywhere you can get it? Right. In which case the pigments are the way to go. Fitzroy writes, I have a difficult time keeping Birdsong as the bud in certain groups. Many of the quests focus on areas she is the bud champion. Any recommendations? It's going to be very difficult for me to solve that problem for you, because I can't see the formation. And I think it comes down to formation building 101. Are you putting champions in the formation that are directing their buffs towards Birdsong? Are you keeping in mind any buffs coming in from blessings about like formation layout, like local blessings, and how you have to build, what kind of buffs you're getting based off where people are placed in the formation? Are you making sure? Yeah, the big one is, are you making sure all the buffs are targeting Birdsong and not some competing DPS? I don't know why you'd have competing DPS in the formation, but who knows? That's kind of the big deal. Like in this game, if you want power, it doesn't just matter that, these are putting in DPS champions and we're doing some damage. It's like you have to go in and be very much, I am building my formation and pointing buffs all towards the person that I want to be my damage. Right? Everything needs to funnel into whoever your chosen DPS is. So like here, Krond is my chosen DPS. It doesn't matter that Caddy Bree is technically also a DPS, and a solid one in my like top 10. She can lay out the damage. But it doesn't matter that I have a competing DPS. I've put that DPS in a place where they're buffing Krond and not receiving other powerful buffs, and that ensures that Krond remains my bud setter. Hey, we got up to 447 and we got wrecked by Oral, which is... it's a thing that happens here in this place. I'm not sure. Hold on. We're going to need a horrifying visage. I wonder if Blushy's ultimate is still broken. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, man, we got it. Good. I hit all the boost damage buttons. Oh, we got up to 455. Nice. Yeah, that was a situation where, okay, that boss is a roadblock. here, you probably shouldn't do Giantsbane Tavern to do deep pushes, because that Area 50 boss wrecks your face. Wrecks your face. Erebor, I'm supposed to kill a frost giant a bunch of times. Where do I find one? There's a lot here in Icewind Dale. So if you have not unlocked Icewind Dale, hop up. The Giantsbane Tavern is the first one. I think there's frost giants here. I think there is. Hold on. Oh. Did we? Is it like right away out the gate with the frost giants? Icewind Dale, cool. Hope that pun was intended. Yes, yeah. Area 4. There's those big things that are showing up for a moment. Those are frost giants. So Area 4 of the Giantsbane Tavern. There you go. There you go. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you have access on your map to Icewind Dale, that's where you're going. If you don't, I think what we're talking about here is the seasonal quests. If you don't, maybe just ignore that one. Try to do the other ones. Oh God, we just got wrecked again. This is the problem I was saying before about survivability at high levels is really the big bad guy. Sometimes there we go. Sometimes staying alive is the hardest part. Even though I have the damage, sometimes staying alive is the hardest part. Home of Dritz to Orden. Well, no. No. Icewind Dale is not the home of Dritz to Orden. Unless the only books you ever read of the Legend of Dritz series were the first 3. And which, sure. But, spoilers. This isn't spoilers. There's like, 30, 40 books out now. And Dritz now lives in the Sword Coast. Dritz lives in the Sword Coast. But he's more Gauntlgrim area. He's in the Gauntlgrim area. I mean, it is Forgotten Realms, but everything about this is the Forgotten Realms. Icewind Dale is where Dritz was originally appeared, along with the other Companions of the Hall, before they were the Companions of the Hall, because they don't become the Companions of the Hall until they leave They're on their way out of Icewind Dale. Yeah, I might enjoy the Legend of Dritz series and know a little about it. Last couple of questions here. Cocoa Plant, I haven't finished the 100 times Elder Brain quest. Can you point me towards where I can find it? It's a time gate thing now, because it was in the event that it had come out previously. Maybe somebody in chat can tell you which event and what champ, but it was a recent one of the recent events. I don't recommend necessarily hunting, like spending time gate pieces on that. Again, some of those seasonal quests are just kind of like, meh. If you didn't do it the first time, on my new player account, I'm ignoring that one completely. That's why I say that. And Espila, are there areas in Avernus, Icewind Dale, and Higher Companions that have no segmented armored bosses for deep push free play? Avernus, it's usually the ones that are not in Avernus. It's the ones that are on the Sword Coast, but are part of the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus campaign. In Icewind Dale, I'm not sure. I haven't taken that close a look at it. Yeah, I haven't had major issues doing deep pushes in Icewind Dale. Even on my new player account. So yeah, I haven't really paid attention to that. But there's some fan sites out there, like the wikis and stuff, that might have that information. All right, folks, we're going to head out. Oh no, what song am I? Oh, I think we're doing Spurt's song, Short Life, Big Heart. No more streams for the weekend on this channel. They'll return on Monday evening with a familiar quest. I think this might be the finale. And then, but I do stream on my own channel, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr, spelled like it sounds. You can see it below. And in an hour-ish, give or take, depending on how long it takes me to get and eat lunch. I'll be playing some video games over my channel. We're playing through For the King. For the King. Puent would like this game. It's RPG-ish / roguelite, and I've named the characters after people from chat, so when they disappoint me, I can call them out. It's fun. Come hang out with us later. enjoy the music, folks. Have a great weekend.
I just turned 11 days old. That's an ancient dragon to a kobold. Got my brother by my side. He was eaten by slime. Everywhere I go, it's just along for the ride. Walking through the underdark. A hammer hit me very hard. Short knife, big heart. We never made it very far. Brothers walking hand in slime on their final march. Short life, big heart. Ask me 3 more questions, tell you what I can. Lived a long life for a kobold, not too long for man. You can ask me about Pepe, you can ask me about my friends. I can show you how to use my stick with stingy on the end. Before the hammer hit my head, I cried out, "You're dead." Short knife, big heart. We never made it very far. Brothers walking hand in slime on our final march. Short life, big heart. I'll tell you about the sandy poles I made, and the bag of wasp I threw like a grenade. Let my death inspire your crusade as you wander on your way. Short life, big heart. Never made it very far. Brothers walking hand in slime.